And thank you to my colleagues for the opportunity to address your committee today. I'd like to bring a few issues to the committee's attention that are critical not only for coastal Virginia, but for all of America. One key thing is the Chesapeake Bay. It's one of our nation's greatest natural resources. It generates $33 billion in economic value annually and hosts one of the most important sites for ecological diversity in North America. Thanks to innovative partnerships across the state and at the federal level, great progress has been made in preserving, protecting, and restoring this critical ecosystem. The Chesapeake Bay Program Reauthorization Act, H.R. 1620, will fully fund the Chesapeake Bay Program for the next 5 years, ensuring that states get the resources they need to comply with their obligations to protect the Chesapeake Bay. The vast majority of funding for this program will go directly towards states within the Chesapeake Bay watershed to help them control pollution and manage runoff in the tributaries that feed into the Chesapeake Bay. This bipartisan bill that I introduced with my colleague, Congressman Rob Wittman from Virginia's 1st District, will help ensure the Bay remains a vibrant and beautiful destination for the next generation. I urge the committee to take up consideration for the Chesapeake Bay Program Reauthorization Act this month. I also encourage the committee to act on climate resiliency. For coastal Virginians and residents of all coastal communities throughout the U.S., sea level rise and recurrent flooding aren't the basis of political talking points or challenges for the future. They're problems we face today. For example, a heavy rain and a high tide prevents tens of thousands of sailors from accessing Naval Station Norfolk. On a similar day, I am unable to drive into the parking lot on occasion to pick my daughter up from school. So these are challenges that we face on a daily basis based on rising sea levels. As the committee develops an infrastructure package, please ensure we are providing communities the resources they need to adapt to rising sea levels. Another issue the committee must prioritize in infrastructure bills is expanding rural broadband. Access to high-speed internet is essential to participating in the modern economy. Reliable, fast internet access can connect people to other communities, health providers, jobs, and even allow them to start their own businesses. Although we've made progress in connecting rural areas to broadband, more work needs to be done. On Virginia's Eastern Shore in my district, that estimated cost is approximately $30 million to adequately expand broadband access to all areas, and I know that this is a similar investment necessary in many parts of the rural areas of this country. The committee must act to ensure we make the necessary investments in critical infrastructure so that no Americans, especially in rural areas, are left behind. Other essential investments in infrastructure cannot be forgotten for rural America. This includes projects such as expanding and modernizing our sewer systems, specifically on Virginia's Eastern Shore, which will provide a much-needed backbone for economic development. Directing federal money to prioritize basic infrastructure needs like this would help economic growth, improve the health of our community, and raise the quality of life across America. Finally, I encourage the committee to fund investments in America's waterways, and specifically the Port of Virginia. Nearly 10% of Virginia's working residents work in port-related jobs, and our port enjoys unique advantages with its deep waters, central location, and access to rail. The administration's budget did not include funding for important dredging projects, so Congress must come to the rescue, as even larger ships are carrying record amounts of goods that benefit both Virginia and America as a whole. It makes sense to make room in the federal budget for these investments in our ports, which will further promote nationwide economic growth. In addition to the importance of large dredging projects such as the Port of Virginia, it is also equally pivotal for secondary channels to be dredged. For example, the Little Machipongo River is a primary aquaculture hub on Virginia's Eastern Shore, producing some of the largest number of shellfish and clams in the country. The navigability of this small waterway is vital to the region's aquaculture industry, which helps employ hundreds of Virginians. Thank you again for this opportunity to highlight the importance of investing in infrastructure in our districts. I ask members of this committee on both sides of the aisle to come together and address critical infrastructure needs of coastal communities like mine. The American people are counting on us, and future generations are depending on the investments that we make in this Congress. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify.